Yeah, it's some would say over in UK it's bucketing down today, and yeah, it sure is. It's yeah, it's quite nice to see some rain. We've been having some dry races for a while now, and the rain breaks it up a little bit, which is nice and refreshing.
Yeah, very interesting today too, as well, to consider the very wet nature of the racetrack and mention that it's all gone one particular driver's way. Bekirden is the driver we speak of course, but all of that could go out the window today. Of course, you got to consider all the variables, don't you, Ted? What cars are good here at Misano? We'll talk in depth about that at some point as well. Can Bekirden live up to the expectation in the rain? Will there be a rain master among them? I think the answer to all of those questions are probably a yes.
Yeah, that's it. Well, obviously, like you say, we'll get into the nitty and gritty of what car could be good here, and obviously what is good in the wet. Obviously, we do have uh, pit requirements, which I will say in due time. Um, that's gonna really affect what these drivers do today. But we've got 13 minutes left of qualifying, and here we have an on board.
Well, we sure do. Qualifying underway, 15 minutes as per usual. Dario Barzaghi, the Team Ballas Esport Ferrari, one of the first cars out onto the racetrack. As a matter of fact, I'd argue just about the first car out on a timed lap. Welcome home to Barzaghi as well. Pretty sure that he doesn't usually remember his home country as wet as it is here today. It is bucketing it down, as Ted Edwards said just a moment ago, and that has created very slippery curbs as well. Always a crapshoot on being the first one out. Through the first section of the track through Parco and Rio, going very well in Quersica, a turn that has kept many drivers up at night. It turns in on itself, and it's one of those corners that you just want to try and run out as far as you can, but you can't. It continues to turn left down into the Tremonto. Another very tight corner. You got to get the braking right here. Usually see a lot of incidents side by side, some spins as well. And now through Curvone, one of the longest dogleg straights I've ever seen. Got a big bend in it. You can go too wide through here. Drafting always an option and a possibility, but it can all go wrong when you get to Del Caro to the very next corner. You got to slow it down through here. And now we're in to Caro. Very tight, hairpin-like turn. Not quite a hairpin, by the way. Doesn't turn a full 180 degrees before you make the bend with no name, and then the Misano curve, the final turn on the racetrack. It's a very small racetrack. It's a quick lap around here, even in the wet, but so many things can go wrong, none of which went wrong for Dario Barzaghi. They're going to give us our first time, and it is 43.932. That's a pretty decent lap out there.
Yeah, and I just seen Vulcans come across the line with a 43.960, so very close between those two right there. So we can see the Ferrari and the Lamborghini at this time very, very close and very competitive in the wet. Obviously, might have someone who can go faster, which would be a nice challenge to see. But we see Maltini coming across the line in the 90 as well with a 44.820, so not too far behind within a second. So that's pretty good going by then. So Ferrari looking a bit strong here, and a few more drivers set in on lap times as we can see. So yeah, it's quite difficult to do qualifying in the rain. You've got a lighter car, you don't want to take as much fuel, so it makes the car a bit more slidey. So you're just hoping those tyres can grip and that your setup is good enough on that low fuel. So it can be very difficult, and you're pushing it to the edge, and one little tap of the grass with the wheel and you go sliding straight off. So it's very difficult.
Certainly is the case. Ferrari has come into big prominence as of late. It's been championed by a lot of high profile drivers. It's led more drivers getting back into the Ferrari and unlocking some of its secrets. It's actually a fantastic race car. There was a time, and it was this year in 2022, where if you said, I'm driving a Ferrari, many people would scoff and say, well, that's a bit bold, isn't it? But now nobody's scoffing at all. Martin Ulrich, that is, the McLeod Racing team at the top of the board at the time. And, well, commentators curse. Dario Barzaghi goes to the top, but is now toppled by another Italian manufacturer. The Kierden's number 54 Lamborghini goes to the point as it's a battle of the Italians up front on the front row right now. Molteni in the number 90 Ferrari, the quickest of the silver drivers, up into P4 right about now. Smaller grid here. Oh, and that looks like an invalidation to me, unless I'm very much mistaken. I don't think Fonsa's going to be able to get credit for that lap.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think it's just a bit too wide going on those anti-wide curves. I would say not very nice to drive over. Not as worse as Cota's ones, but still going to get a validated lap there. But yeah, it's there's two Astons up there now. I see the 6:15 Aston Martin for silver is in first by 5/10, the half a second. That's pretty good going. See if Maltini can catch up with them. Splitting Fonza and Daly from the pro class, and he's still to set time. So see if Daly can get up there. I know Daly's a pretty quick guy, but has he got a good enough setup in the rain? Will he be faster in the race than qualifying? Because, you know, qualifying is just qualifying at the end of the day. You obviously want to start near the front of your class, or even the whole grid. But you know, it's wet. People might make mistakes, might crash. Pit requirements are still a thing to take into account. So, you know, anything can happen, and your race pace might just be better than the person in front.
Well, racing in the rain, always a difficult proposition. Some better at it than others. It's all about course knowledge, too. No two tracks in the rain will race the same. Everybody probably knows that. And also, too, knowing what curbs you can take, very important. Flat curb sometimes looks innocuous, but in the rain, it turns into a puddle. Raised curbs, sometimes you can use those in the rain, where otherwise you probably wouldn't. It's all about knowing the course. And, of course, that changes, too, depending on what sim you're in. Have to know the physics and the name of the game. Gaida in the 615 goes to the point in the silver class. Fonsa does get a lap in, good enough for 6 overall, about 5th in class. Barzaghi to the point, a 43.090, 1/10 quicker than Bekirden. The two Italian manufacturers continue to find it out here on home turf. Zealous Motorsports Bilski number 7 Lambo sets a quicker lap that time. Drops into 11th place. A lot of Lamborghinis, and probably the driver I'm most surprised to see, the Lamborghini Jordan Daly, the Just Gamers 197. You know Daly, he's a gamer. Had a wicked crash in the rain one night ago in the Friday Championship. Car just absolutely snapped and drove headfirst into the wall at the Hungaroring. Thank God it was a video game. That looked positively nasty. Not having such problems today in the Lamborghini. It's still weird to say that.
Yeah, well, let's see if we can keep it on the track today. Hopefully no snaps, but it's pretty heavy here, so I wouldn't know what the race will be. Obviously the practice is on Friday. They have a 45-minute practice, and they get a 50-minute quali on a Saturday, and then on a Sunday is the race. So the weather you see at the top right, where it goes present 10 minutes and 30 minutes, is not what you're going to see for the race. Most likely it could be less rain, it could be no rain, or it could be absolutely drenched like it is now, and that's gonna be something to look out for in 5 minutes and 40 seconds time. But Daly's got back into 7th, so he's only got one silver car in front of them and a pro car in front of them. I see Thomas Pierce is in 5th. Sorry, I was blind. One's left, but Daly's got up there. He's only got one silver car to go, and he'll be joined with the pros, and there'll be a pro and silver split. Nice, but everyone has got a lap in. Just some people in the pits probably going to try and get their final lap.
Gaida continuing to lead the silver class. Barzaghi still the quickest in the pro class. Gal and everybody else trying to play a little bit of catch up here. It doesn't matter what class you're in, it is tricky situations, but just a reminder, a white number background is pro, a silver background is, well, I'm not going to explain it too much, you probably get it by now. Just the two classes here today, 16 cars, and I hate to say this, I will say this though, I do hate to call out drivers, but the participation every single time we come to Misano dips. for some reason, and I'm not quite sure why that is. I was talking to fellow commentator Ryan Mawson, who went live this evening. It always seems to happen here. It's one track that I love watching racing at, but as a driver, it always frustrates me. Maybe that has something to do with it tonight, but neither makes no difference. All the main players in the championships here tonight working towards the goal of winning a night out championship. Bearden again goes quicker, a 42.797. Lamborghini absolutely fired out of a cannon there, 3/10 quicker than Dario Barzaghi's best effort and 6/10 quicker than Ulrich's best effort right now. Looking nice here with 4 minutes to go.
Times are slowly dipping as there's a little bit more grip, a little bit more of a drier line coming into play, which gives a little bit more grip for the drivers out there. But yeah, saying participation dips coming to Misano, and it always does happen. I don't know why, because I love the track. Probably can say that because I have won a 2-hour race here solo, which was pretty fun in the McLaren 720S. Very good car around here, but I don't know why it dips. I don't mind the track. It's a good flowing.
Really?
It's a good flowing track. It's not my hated one. Probably Zandvoort's on there, but I quite like it.
I love, like I said, I love calling races here. One of the best races that RCI's ever put on. I think it was a Lamborghini Cup race, and it was Ryan Gill and myself calling that, and it was just so back and forth. It was such a fantastic race. We've had races that have come down to side-by-side finishes. That's happened in several different series, including a Night Owl championship back when. Fading light, it was just like something out of a movie, and two cars that were fighting each other across the line, neck and neck. Quite fantastic stuff. It always races well. I think it's frustrating to the drivers. It's sort of the opposite of Paul Ricard, but has that same effect. You see Paul Ricard come up on the schedule, and a couple of people all of a sudden decide to take the week off. No drop round, though, in this series. Unlike many of the other weekly series, Night Owl does not have a drop round. It is survival of the fittest here on Saturday night.
Yeah, I do like to torture them a little bit, don't I, Jesse? But you know, you still get 2 sign outs. So you know, if you can't make a race, then you know you can always sign out on that. But yeah, it's they've never had a drop round, never done anything similar to that in this series. So I didn't think of adding it. You know, all the other series we run, I think, do at least have a drop round plus sign outs, and I thought, well, I've been used to it for so long, I better not torture them. So yeah.
I will say I do love the throwback to how championships used to go. For those of you that may be newer to RCI competition, the sign outs are more, or not the sign out, excuse me, the drop round is a more recent invention that we used. Our series never used to really incorporate that, and the reason you would use a sign out system where one is allowed, it basically, or not sign out, I keep saying that, the drop round system is so that the worst finish is omitted from the final results. It keeps a very close championship alive, but also some really good racing can do the same. Might we see that today? Doesn't look like it so far, with Bekeerden out in front by some margin over Barzaghi, as Jordan Daly, who was just about at the back of this pack, keep in mind, outside the top 10 as a pro, was very frustrating, but goes P2 here.
He can get a good qualifying in. He pushes so hard that he does get a track limit, so it disallows his time. Just can he do it in the race though? Because many a times in Night Owl he's garage doors come down due to a crash, an incident, or whatever. So hopefully this time he can keep on going and get some points. It's only 6 of them. There's quite a lot of points to go for, even if you come last in pro. But yeah, like you're saying, with the drop route being recent, that's only because Stewie, who does our website for us, added that in. Obviously, before we used to use spreadsheets, and that was not something we could really do. It takes up a lot of time if we would go to everyone, see what their lowest one is, and then recalculate and stuff. So, all really thanks down to Stewie for giving us this lovely website that we have, and really easy to get around.
Indeed, Stewie, the silent protagonist here on a lot of the broadcasts you see throughout the entire week. He's the silent protagonist of everything that RCI does. Actually, the I would say unsung, but he's not because we talk about it ever so often. But is the man that controls all of the finer bits that I am too dumb to possibly understand. Galinsky goes P1 in the silver class, but immediately gets overtaken. Molteni in the number 90 Ferrari goes back to the point. There's one car that seems to be stuck into the ground. Somebody pouring fresh cement. That is not good for your championship leader who appeared to be on a lap and then something happened. They fell into a sinkhole. You hate to see it. You hate it when it happens. And the championship leader in silver will not have a run here. That will conclude qualifying. Qualifying results on the screen, non-committal on who's the quickest in any particular sector. Jordan Daly, though, sitting in second place, not quickest in any sector, just had a nicely consistent lap to take a front row starting spot. But everybody chasing Bekirden, who set the quickest time of all.
Of a kid and just showing us what he's made of, really. I think he's been quickest in all the races so far this season. But yeah, as we see, the purple sectors are split. If I go back to it, we got Bekirden got sector 2, Barzaghi got sector 1, and then Ulrich got sector 3. So it's split. Daly didn't even get any of the sectors.
No, he really didn't. But that just shows you don't have to be the quickest in any particular sector. You just have to put together a quick lap. You just got to be close and hope somebody else has been a little bit poorer in that particular sector. That's exactly what you see here. Kids, lesson of the day: consistency wins races, and it's front row starting spot here. Let's take a look at the silver class. Molteni, who looked like they were going to be upset here, has not been. The number 90 Ferrari locking out the top positions for the Italian makes in both of the classes. And of course, Thomas Pierce in between them and Galinsky, who I thought for a second going to have that pole position. Gotcha in third place in that class. And you have to look back to 10th place. Neil Pimlott, your championship leader. Speaking of that, let's take a look at the championship points as they run into today's race. Here, starting off with the pro class, Volkan Bekirden, 102 points, has just been having their way with this championship. Martin Ulrich in second place, 63 points. It's not over yet. One bad race for Bekirden will bring Ulrich back into it, but the fight for second will and truly on. Dario Barzaghi, third, 57 points. That's the best number. I will not hear any argument. Fonsa in fourth place, 47 points. Timothy Flamger in fifth place, 1 point out of fourth with 46 points. 1 point behind him, Vitor Marcos with 45 points. Alex Rogers in seventh place, 40 points. A tie for eighth place between John Arazer and Thomas Pierce. And rounding out your top 10, Roman Frawler. Outside the top 10, just the one car still involved. That Jordan Daly hasn't had a point thus far, but is looking to fix that today. Anybody with a dash instead of a number has retired from the championship. Moving on to the silver class, it's been a little closer, admittedly. Neil Pimlott leads the championship, but we'll start deep into the pack today, 83 points. Galinsky in second place, looking very strong here, 75 points on the tally. Bilski was 71, right behind them for third place. Rudy Fieldmalter, the South African, in fourth place with 54 points. I'm not dyslexic, I promise. And Molteni with 47 points, rounding out your top 5. Pusina with 39 points, 1 point in front of the boss man, Kevin Boss, who has joined the RCI commentary crew in the last couple of weeks. Kerrigan in 8th place with 29 points. Kaneko, 26. Rounding out the top 10, Gal with 20. Starting from 11th place, Stephen Clark on 18. Jelinek with 5 points. And Gaja with 0 points thus far, but also had a fantastic qualifying here. Everybody else with a dash, you guessed it, has retired from the championship. You know, Ted, it's one of those races, it could go either way, and just because a car's fast doesn't mean that they are going to be fast consistently. It's all about the setup here, and it's a little bit about where you place your car. A millimeter's difference in going off the road, hitting a puddle, could be the difference between a good finish here and a retirement. There are a lot of things to run into, including the other cars. It's always a physical race here at Misano as well, isn't it?
Yeah, Misano is one of those tracks. It can be quite quick. The first like few corners are pretty slow, pretty tight. Not much room to fight against each other. But you get onto the first straight, and there's overtaking opportunity, slipstream. Then you go through the next set of two or three corners, and then that back straight with was it the two right-handers? That is where all the speed is. That's where you want to maximize your grip and where you can make most of your time on another driver that's not as quick and not as brave as you into the braking zones. But it can be a very quick track. It can be wide in places, so there's a lot of overtaking opportunities. But it's raining, so this is where these wet setups, if they have them, some people might just be running dry setups with wet tires. I've done that a few times. It's worked out, but this is where the wet's gonna show who's got the kahoonies than the other drivers.
Well, it's Night Owl, baby, and that can only mean one of two things. And well, tonight it does mean that we have random pit requirements that are decided day of the race. Ted Edwards is the man that holds the keys. And today, what door has that unlocked?
We have a 53-minute pit window, so that opens 3 minutes 50 in to the race and closes 3 minutes 50 before the race ends. So the 1 liter of fuel is required, and it is 2 mandatory pit stops. So you have to take a liter each time. So let's see what strategy they come out with today. People might take a third lot of fuel to start off with, and then fill up a third, and then fill up the last third. Might even half it, who knows? But have to wait.
Two mandatory 1 liter fuel stops required today in this rain. Will somebody change wet tires? I don't think they will, but there might be a mad lad who does that at some point just to have fresh treaded Pirellis on the car. You never can really tell what is going to go through the heads of some of these drivers. Do you stack your pit stops? We've seen that in the past. Do you spread them out? I think that's what you do. Run the race in thirds and pit in the middle two intervals. And that's how I think most drivers will dispatch this today. But before they can even consider that, they got to wait for the pit window to be open, and they got to battle with this racetrack. Not so bad for the front row, Ted Edwards, if we're honest, is it? But everybody else, it's going to be a absolute foggy mess as they thunder down the various straights around this track.
Yeah, it's gonna be. Well, you won't be able to see anything for some of the drivers. If you're that's why in the rain, you want to be at the front, as far front as you can. But yeah, it's gonna be difficult. I just noticed here, one of the drivers, Neil Pimlott, he qualified 5th in silver, 10th overall. He's at the back of the pack, unfortunately. That was the car that we saw covered in concrete. He had a
Yes.
technical issue, so he will be starting at the back of the grid. So he's going to have all that lovely spray to contend with. But yeah, he's a pretty fast guy. He can get up there if he makes some good moves. But have to wait and see. It's only an hour race, basically a sprint for some of these guys. But there is 2 pit stops, so you've got to think wisely.
You sure do. And for the uninitiated, that is what it looks like when you disconnect. The car just sort of does weird things. In Neil Pimlott's case, he was reenacting a Titanic moment there. I think being stuck with the rear up into the air, and they of course have lost that qualifying position. The championship leader in silver will have to start at the back of the pack. Welcome into all of you late night owl fans out there. I know there are some of you in chat. We see you, and we thank you for joining us on a Saturday evening. We hope that wherever you are, you're doing well. Of course, we thank you for spending a little bit of your evening with us. A big thank you to our partners as well. We'll talk more about them after the checkered flag falls tonight. But as of right now, Ted, you know what? It's Night Out, baby. You do the honors.
I do the honors. Oh, Jesse Lee, I ain't done this one before. Here we come up to the start line, and off we go down into the first corner. Look at that spray, it's so crazy. First 2 in front, Daly and Vulcan doing it very nicely. 2 by 2. There's a 3 in the back and a 4 in the back almost. That's very close. going into the second corner now. Contact just, oh, there's one off to the right. There's, I think that's a Aston Martin gone. I'm not sure. I think that was between Pimlott and Boss. We'll find out in a second with the replay. But
That was Kevin Boss.
it was, oh, that was quite a heavy hit. But then it's raining, so it's very wet. It's very slick on that track. So yeah, easy to slide and see the car getting back on track there in the right corner. But so far, so good. Saying that, there's a Porsche off to the left on that grass. That's not where you want to be. You want to be on that tarmac, and you see second, third and fourth fighting. Very, very calm, Jesse, at the minute, which is very nice to see.
One of the cars off there, they're going to lose a couple of spots. I believe that is a McLaren that will lose at least 2 spots here. They go up to the Tramonto hairpin. That is not, again, technically a hairpin, but it definitely appears to be one. A couple of incidents that occurred there. You saw that one car went off after they got through the Curva del Rio. Of course, Kevin Boss didn't make it through Del Parco without a incident there. Jordan Daly fighting to stay inside the top 3, couple of position. Martin Ulrich will surrender that spot back to Daly. Barzaghi able to get up to second place and take that spot away from Daly on the initial start, just put them on the back foot. Meanwhile, Kierden doing exactly what the 54 Lamborghini has done all season, and that's play keep away at the front of this field. Riding on board, Thomas Pierce's 131. This is all you can see. Folks, this is the car in 6th place. They're not even in the mid-pack here, and this is all you can see. An absolute spray of water. Looks exactly like if you go through one of those automated car washes. The only problem is they're doing over 150 Ks on that particular stretch of the track. And look at that, Pierce going down to the inside, and Parco is going to take that position away, close the door on the exit of that corner, and it's job done.
I wonder if Maltini did that on purpose, let him through just so they're not fighting, so he can try and keep that gap to the 615. But this is the car we saw from the left on the grass, turn 5, I think it is. You're wrong, but yeah, they're off to the grass here on the left. For some reason, not sure why. Probably just a little bit of contact coming out of the corner. Here comes a race replay. This is from the start. Not the cars that we thought was going to be the ones that went off.
RG Bargy right there. That was the tail end of the daily battle that we saw.
This is the one with Kevin. Here we go. What's going to happen here then? Let's go. Kevin just lost the rear a little bit. Tried to straighten it up, but wasn't enough, and caught the front end of that.
Didn't make it to the wall, importantly.
No, which is a good thing. He's still going. Yeah, that's the last thing you want is hitting the wall with 2 pit stops. People still a little bit wide into the corners. Need to reel that in a little bit, especially here. You can get 2 track cuts here, Jesse. I found that out many a times, and it's not fun when you get slammed with 2 straight away. Yeah, side by side, the Porsche and the Lambo. Oh, the Lambo's gone straight in. That's Bilski straight in to do its first one, and the Aston Martin of Linsky. So.
Couple of more contacts right here fighting for a mid-pack position. There was the initial one between the 2 BMWs. The BMW turns the Porsche gets sideways, makes contact with the AMG, and that's how easily it can turn. You know, you brought up a good point, Ted. We didn't talk about that at all, but track limits here are always a problem, even in a 1-hour race. It's so easy to go wide and get a couple of those. Ferrari on McLaren, this will be the second time that specific McLaren and Thomas Pierce has been off the racetrack in that corner. I think the first time was unassisted, though. That time had a little bit of contact there. Is that the leader in silver? Oh, excuse me. That was what we saw in the first lap. That was Thomas Pierce. A little bit of contact, contacted off the racetrack. Must have not caught that bit. I thought he went off by himself. Turns out Thomas Pierce was sent.
Yeah, the first one we saw with the Porsche, the green and purple one, is Phil Motor and I know it's Piscina. I thought it was Pimlott. I will take that back. It was Piscina who hit Phil Motor there, which very heavy contact. But yeah, like you said, like I said, easy just to lose it. But you see there, Phil Motor's got back in front, so I think Piscina may have just dropped back to let them through to make that penalty, if there is one, a bit less of a heavy hit. So Very nice from them. They did lose another position to the Mercedes, but you know that's what happens. You make a contact, you got to sort of suffer the consequences in a way. And then the second one was it's Pierce on the Ferrari. I think that's Martini. Yeah, I think that's just under braking. You know, down this long straight, you got the every break in the rain. You sort of almost I got the wrong straight, Jesse. We're at the end. But yeah, after the long straight, it's quite heavy braking, and in the wet you don't really have that much grip. So just little things happening, and yeah, not so bad so far, Jesse. No one's in a wall.
What's happened here? Dario Barzaghi is out in front of Bekirden now. That was interesting change there because Bekirden was more than a second in front of Barzaghi and now finds himself in the second place. Have a replay here, see if we can figure out what happened. These are the two leaders flashing by. You can already see Dario Barzaghi is in front of Bekirden at this stage. So whatever it wasn't a huge moment for the championship leader in pro, but it was big enough that surrendered the lead and then some. 1.7 seconds off of the lead, and now Jordan Daly, who fought Ulrich so hard for the third place, might be able to cash in for second place to get his spot back now. What happened to the 54? A mystery we hope to solve at some point, but nevertheless, Dario Barzaghi out in front. Ted, you got a report for us?
Sorry, yes, it wasn't the 54. It was obviously Pimlott. Unfortunately, has had the issue where he's probably sunk into the ground again. So a bit of technical issues, which is.
It is wet out there.
Yeah, just sinkhole appeared out of nowhere and took him, which is unfortunate because Pimlott's a really good racer. But yeah, it's a big shame. I don't know if he'll going back. If he does, he'll have to wait a little bit and be a few laps down. But well, you know, there's points to grab, so you never know. He might come and join back. He might not. He might even come and join us in chat. But yeah, it's unfortunate. But yeah, we see 93 of Bonds are coming. So who's actually coming? We've got 3 silvers coming. Oh, there's Pimlott. He's back again. We've got 3 silvers are coming. Galinsky, Bilski, and Pristina have both come in. All 3 have come in, and Fonza, the first of the pros, come in. So, guessing from their off they had, they just thought, you know what, come in, serve one of the requirements, and then off I go again. But Daly's dropped back 2 more places. He's down in 5th.
Something happened to that particular Lamborghini, and that is exactly what it is.
That's loss of rear, I would say. By the angle he was at, he just rear end just lost that grip. I have seen he's been going deep into corners as well.
You have to admit it is a bit suspicious in the early going in this race. The major issues with offs that have led to changes of position in the top 5 all involve Lamborghinis, Ted.
Yeah, well, we know that the rear of the Lamborghini is like pretty open with the diffuser, so you got to get the ride height just right, especially in the wet. You know, you don't want to lose rear, but always I've found with the Lamborghini is rear is always going to have a little bit of loosey-goosey. But that was a bit close there. Daly almost hitting Piers. That would have been not very nice. But yeah, it's different. It's a good car, a good fast car, good grip. But yeah, as soon as that rear slips, and you know, in this heavy rain, it's going to slip even more. Pretty nasty when it goes. But Daly's going to come in and serve one of his mandatory pit stops. Probably just to get out of the way of Pierce, because you can't see anything behind that 720S McLaren. Probably a good idea from Daly. You know, it stops him from pushing it too hard, and then, you know, ended up having another one of those slides. But it was here, turn 3, which is very easy to slide because the front digs in. I think there's like a little dip in the road, and it just digs a bit. So I've had that a few times, so I understand his pain in that situation.
More cars into the pit lane. Daly's had enough. They're going to make a change. Neil Pimlott has reconnected. They are allowed, by the way, to rejoin the race as Neil Pimlott, and they haven't done to this point. But if you disconnect and reconnect, you are able to continue on. I think it gives you I think it resets your laps, or it gives you an additional lap down, one of the two. But needs to finish 80 to 85% of the race to get any sort of points here, and I wouldn't need to be a mathematician to know that if he doesn't get back out there soon, he's not going to do that. And on top of that, you don't need a calculator to tell you that if he doesn't get out there at all, he is going to lose the championship lead.
Yeah, so I think he's. So what happens is when you reconnect, he's moving now. So when you reconnect, you get put back on the lap you disconnected on. So that's annoying. Another thing is you have a tow time. So I think you set there for 2.5 minutes.
Yes, you are correct.
So,
that's why I thought it put you an extra lap.
Yeah.
Because it technically does, but it's not manual.
Yes.
Tow time, right?
Yes. And then so he's out of the pit lane now. Leader's coming up on him. So he will get lapped again at some point.
But what's important is that he runs 85% of whatever the leader runs.
Yes.
Is what's important. Run 85, which I think he will. Ooh. He has come out. Oh, close moment here between Molteni and Gotcha. This is for the lead in the silver class right now. It's so hard to see out there, and you can so very ill afford to run into the back of somebody, and you just can't see them until the last possible second. Look at Gotcha's car sliding around these corners. That 615 Aston, you would hardly know what it is. But going back to Pinlot for a second, he is still, at least by my calculation, in that 80 to 85% rule. If he finishes, he will get some points, and he still would lose the championship points lead if nobody else retires. But the most important thing is he's not getting a goose egg here today if he continues around. He's getting points, and with how good Neil has been, he can get the rest of he can make the rest up in the next couple of rounds, get back into a championship winning position. And if he does win this championship, Neil Pimlott, this will be the race we all circle and say that was the day that the 140 had to gut it out. They did exactly what they had to and kept themselves in the.
Yeah, I just hope nothing else happens. That's twice now.
Why did you have to say it?
Because we have to curse things, Jesse. It's the commentator's curse, you know.
About to curse
but
you.
Yeah, well, saying about that, we do see Ulrich has a lovely red marker next to his name. But another thing I just noticed, Daly's completed both of his mandatory pit stops. He's the first one to do it. So that's
he is driving the gamer car, and that's a pro gamer move to double up the stops. I mentioned briefly that sometimes you see drivers do that, especially in wet weather conditions where tires are not at a premium. You'll see them do that. They'll double stack, get it all done, get in a clear section of the racetrack and try to make up time, especially with a car that has a lot of speed like Daly. I'm not surprised to see them do that. Of course, here is Martin Ulrich, the McLeod Racing Team, Aston Martin, completing their drive-through penalty. And on top of all of that, it is worth mentioning our lovely stewards who are with us here late on a Saturday evening as well. Nothing's come through the box, so I'm forced to believe that was track limits already.
Well, you just had three people shout at you. You had Alpha, you had Phil, and you had Stewie shout at you. So.
Well, you know what? Sometimes I'm a little. But yeah, indeed. Context clues said that was a track limits penalty, and it was. You called that very early, Ted. That's always a problem here. Surprised to see one in the first 14 minutes, though, I am.
Well, like I said before, they got when we get around to, I'll point the corner out, because I don't know corner names and I don't know the corner numbers, so I should know this being a commentator, but yeah, there is one section of the track which can give you 2 track limit warnings just by going wide, not cutting the corner, by going wide. It is a big pain in the booty, and yeah, it's such a weird thing. I don't know why it's like that. I don't think it's like that in the real world. I think it's just an ACC thing, unfortunately. But as we see Ulrich come up to it now, if you go wide here, you'll get 2 track limit warnings before you get back on. So it's here actually. It's really annoying. You just get it and it just comes out of nowhere, and it will just shout at you twice in quick succession, and then there you go. You know you've only got one more before you get your DT penalty, and yeah, Ulrich already got his, and he hasn't even done one of his pit stops.
It is a bit a shame, really, but it is the nature of the racetrack, the weather, of course, making that very difficult. Well, folks, last week at Watkins Glen, actually 2 weeks ago, because we took an EWC break, but flash back to 2 weeks ago, round 3, Watkins Glen, we had a RCI record, not a night owl record, an RCI record all time for fewest penalty reports in a single weekly event. We only had 3 of them a week ago. We've already had just about double that tonight. Misano, of course, always a track that, as we said, invites contact, and it certainly has. Racing incident between the 197 and the 8 on lap 1, turn 2. No further action between the 31 and the 740 on lap 1, turn 2. 5-second penalty for car 90 for an overtake with contact at the end of lap 1. Actually, that's the middle of lap 1. That was versus car 131. 15-second penalty for car 903 for taking out the 999. Position was given back on lap 2, turn 15. A warning for car 999 for not holding brakes, causing avoidable contact with the 812. That also lap 2, turn 15. Interesting, we saw Kevin Boss was the first car to go off in the first turn, technically the second turn, and that rendered no further action. The 31 turned across the 740, causing that contact. That's very interesting. This is a specific corner, Ed, that I'll have you know Kevin Boss has had a lot of trouble with in recent memory.
Oh dear, yeah. Well, I was right with what I said then. He first corner he just got rear loose, you know, probably tires weren't warm enough, or he just got heavy on the brakes and they dug the front in and made the rear come out, and he just rear end slipped out, and he just went across the front of the Lamborghini, I believe it is, the 740, yeah, of Dino. Yeah, how do you say that name, Jess? Come on, let me hear your pronunciation.
Kaneko.
Kaneko. Oh, that's a cool last name. But yeah,
could be Kaneko, but I
Kaneko.
prefer Kaneko.
Coffee. But anyway, but yeah, it's just a simple loss of grip on the rear. No further actions. That's not too bad. No one got seriously hurt. Boss came off the worst, but it's in ninth at the minute, which is technically at the back of the grid because there's a few people doing their pit stops. And, a few of them have actually completed them now, but it's he's not lost too much. He's still going to get points if he finishes the race, same as him lot.
That is correct.
But yeah, still 42 minutes and 30 seconds of this race to go. Looks like it's been going on for ages.
Yeah, Pimlott, of course, qualified pretty decently, admittedly, but not a threat for pole position in the silver class. Didn't get to keep that position, disconnected before qualifying was over, reconnected on the grid. It put him at the back. That's how ACC works. There's absolutely nothing RCI could have done about that. Then disconnected in the race, connected again, and then after a lengthy mandatory wait period is able to rejoin and has continued to pound around, praying for no more disconnects this evening. That would absolutely dampen, no pun intended, of course, the championship hopes of Neil Pimlott tonight. A couple of cars that had penalties. Most of those served. Martini has 1 5-second penalty. They have to serve on the very first pit stop. They are required to do that. Of course, Daly double pitted after a off-track excursion, we'll say, with no damage. Went back out. He's the leader of the cars that have pitted. No real surprise there. Pusina and Phil Malter, like you just said, have already completed it, but the top 9 now have make that the top 8 have not completed a single stop thus far, but you have to imagine if they're going to cut it to the thirds, that will be coming. You know, we're always reading chat here at RCI, and been very humorous. We've had some philosophical questions. If a car crashes in the rain and you can't see it, did the car really crash? I'm going to go with yeah, because eventually you get a nice long repair bill in the mail. So that still counts as a crash. Greetings from the Netherlands. Hello to you. Got Batty Stone and Adam Dubiel in the chat as well as Elfa, one of our stewards. They're going back and forth on stewarding issues, and not a whole lot of big issues tonight, but still about double what we had 2 weeks ago. Absolutely spoiled they were.
Just looking at, pit stop time. 1 minute 15. Not sure why, compared to, let's say, Glinsky's 56 seconds. And Boss's 1 minute. So I don't know why the extra 15. I don't know if it's tyres, but that just seems a bit weird, Jesse. There is no tyre requirement to change in both pit stops. Just 1 litre of fuel. I don't think you would need tyres this early on. They haven't seen them in a sideways crash. But
Oh,
yeah.
bad
Oh,
news for Neil
Pimlott.
Pimlott. And he is disconnected once again, and that might be final nail in the coffin for today. Can't ever rule them out. They did have a slight lead in the championship, and if they sweep the final couple of rounds, well, who am I to say what that is going to look like in the near future?
Yeah, poor Pimlott. He's still got points under his belt, so hopefully these lot don't run away too far from him. He's still got 2 more rounds. Hopefully he can get whatever the problem is sorted out, ready for, I believe, next weekend, the round 5 at Dakota. It's going to be an interesting race. Can't remember what I got in store for that one. I'll remind myself after tomorrow, as some of us are a little bit busy.
You're getting old,
Yeah,
Ted. It happens to everybody.
yeah, getting there, and I Jesse.
Old man Ted Edwards here with even older man Jesse Lee in the box with young hip guy Stewie, who has to put up with us and our talk of back in our days we had Ataris.
Oh, Galinsky, a drive-through. That'd be track limits, I would say, as we have confirmed from Alpha. That is track limits. So you just go wide over the anti-curbs on the exit of. I'm just going to guess numbers. Turn 5. Coming onto that straight, as you see the 197's coming into it now on that track map. And yeah, just went a bit wide and got the 4th one. That's very unfortunate. So they're gonna drop back from provisional 2nd. I think I probably be making that one up, but yeah, it's gonna suck because they've still got another pit stop to do, mandatory pit stop. So it's gonna hurt a little bit. But let's see
I tell you who
where.
that helps though, Ted. That helps Neil Pimlott because that is the car that is right behind them in the championship. 83 to 75 is the points as they came in. You can assume Neil Pimlott is not going to get any points here. And now Galinsky, who has a drive-through penalty, so they'll make a 3rd trip down the pit lane. They're going to serve their drive-through here, I would assume. That didn't come back around and do their pit stop. This will drop them well down the order. They're not going to get many points here. That helps Lucas Bilski, by the way, who is having a decent enough day and will certainly finish in front of Pavel Galinsky this particular stage. All that helps Neil Pimlott. All that helps Lucas Bilski. It's going to be a tight one in silver, I'm telling you.
Yeah, Pro's sort of a little bit split at the top, isn't it? Balkans just walked away with the 54 at the minute, which is what I'm expecting it. You got Ulrich and then Dario in 3rd, so 102, 63, and 57 points. So pretty split, and further back down in Pro, it's closer than that, with about a few points between each other actually. So it's pretty close. But yeah, silver is closer than that. Pimlott obviously leading with Glinsky and Bilski 2nd and 3rd. 83, 75, and 71, like you just said. So still close. And there's Fillmore, Maltini, Piscini, Boss. They're still close. They get enough points. Things can change pretty quickly.
Rudy Philwalter, of course, has completed all of their stops. The only silver car to, actually, the leading silver car to do so. Pusina, my apologies, done that. It is 8 seconds behind the South African driver. So that's interesting. Quite curious where Phil Malter is going to come through in all of that. Daly's already made his way past a couple of cars that have still yet to complete their final pit stop. Again, all drivers have to complete 2 mandatory 1 liter of fuel stops this evening. Several cars have gotten drive-through penalties for track limits tonight as well, as is the nature of this place. It is vicious even in the dry, folks. Misano is. It's even less hospitable in the wet. If you missed the very start of the race, no surprises. Bekirden ran a fantastic lap that put them on pole position. Dario Barzaghi qualified 3rd, able to get around Jordan Daly, who qualified 2nd, and eventually took the lead from Bekirden whenever they obviously made some sort of error that allowed the Barzaghi to get through. Barzaghi then put several seconds on the championship leading 54 Lamborghini. They run 1-2, or at least they did, before the cycle of pit stops for the leaders. have kicked off. I definitely wouldn't have called the front-running drivers pitting this late. I would have probably seen them in around the 40-minute mark, but they've left it quite near to the halfway point.
Yeah, it's not something I would have thought they would have done, being two mandatory top race. Obviously, like we saw with Daly though, he did his back to back basically, so they might just do it back to back towards the end. Just have to wait and see. It's not something we normally see. Normally, I would add a tire swap, so they have to do 2 pit stops, 2 tire swaps. So they would sort of do them in thirds because you can really wear the tires out on lower fuel. Come in, get some more fuel, get some new tires, and shred them again, and then get some for the last end of the race and demolish those ones. But obviously, this is wet. This is different. Wet's gonna last a bit longer. You're not using them as hard as you would the dries, obviously, because you can't. It's like a ice rink out there by the look of it. So yeah, it's different strategies from all drivers, all classes.
For future posterity, I just want to point out that Batty Stone in chat, that's Harry Conway, for the uninitiated. That is 3-time Night Owl champion Harry Conway with the Maca Cat icon. And Himmy Husky, I believe they won. That's Ryan Mawson. That's everybody's favorite blue dog. And pretty sure they won a Night Owl championship at some point as well. So a lot of experience in chat this evening.
615 is just gone wide on the end of that long straight, and Martini's got past. I'm not sure what happened, but 615 dove into the pit lane to serve one of the 2 mandatories. So weird, but luckily there's no contact with the rejoin, so that's good. But yeah, the Buddy Stone saying first race of Night Owl was over 2 years ago. That's pretty mad, Jesse.
I will say I am a bit offended, Harry. Honestly, I don't miss Jesse's old mic. You mean the a mic that I was told was broadcast quality? It turns out it was not at all. So I still will use that particular headset, but not the mic part of it. Man, those were the days.
Yeah, I remember the days driving in AM class. I've said this before. Going back in time, Night Owl days. There were some days, a lot more cars, but one of those things that happen with some of the champs we have. Sometimes they get a little bit quiet for a while. There's people doing other things in life. But we still have 16 drivers, and I've just seen Pimnot has joined back, and he is going around the track, I believe. What a guy.
Well, he's trying everything at this point, and my hat's off to him. I know that probably there's somebody out there that's annoyed that Neil Pimlott keeps disconnecting and reconnecting, but for me, I love the spirit, trying not to give up. I don't know, being 7-8 laps down, if that is still within the 80-85% rule, whichever one it is. I don't think it is, but despite that, absolutely trying their darndest here to get more laps than somebody else, maybe holding on to a hope and not giving up is the biggest thing. That's very admirable. If you want to endear yourself to me, not that Neil Pimlott's doing that, I'm just saying, if you want to endear yourself to me, no matter how many times you get knocked down, just keep getting back up. How do you learn to ride a horse, Ted Edwards? Well, you get bucked off, you get back on.
Yeah, you just keep going, don't you? A lot of drivers here know that feeling. You just gotta get going back in that race, things that, I see someone's off. 6:15 and 9:03, I think.
Oh, Pavel Gaja with a big crash here. One of the only real big crashes we've had in a subsequent spin. Cars coming through, waved yellows in the area. A big moment there with 2 cars crashing into each other. That probably, see, I would love to see that all again. Here's Gaja. What happens here? Oh, so there was an accident prior to that. Gaja had an incident, tried to rejoin right into the path of the Aston there.
That is a big yikes. yeah, obviously that the red stuff that Piscini was on is slippery when wet. Um, yeah, it's horrible, and obviously they put the foot down, didn't get enough grip to keep going, got into the racing line, and whack comes an Aston range inside of the M4 there. So it was got something to do. And just said again, Pimlott has DC'd again. Poor
Neil
guy
Pimlott, it,
cannot get
Neil
a break.
Neil Pimlott is going to set a record
He is.
for the amount of disconnects in a single race.
I think we need to get a trophy for most disconnects in one
Yeah,
race and rejoins.
that is the incredible saga of Neil Pimlott today. Came in the championship leader in the silver class, has disconnected 3 or more times. I have sort of lost count a little bit. What you couldn't see right there in that, but I noticed the spray was off the racetrack. That was Maltini. Maltini drove off the racetrack there. I think slid off is more an apt term of what happened, but because you couldn't see it, it almost like it didn't happen. I'm talking reading chat again, some of the interesting things going on in there. I'm telling you, if we had Seb Brunier, we could have the trifecta of Night Owl champion.
Oh, we've got 28 minutes, 30 seconds left, Jesse. This feels like a 2-hour long race. I don't know what it is with tonight. I think it's the rain sending me to sleep.
The thing is that there's so much going on. There's the race within the race. There's a lot of pit stops. There's been a lot of self-inflicted injuries and penalties. There's cars going everywhere. It races like this slow down. Whenever the race is nice and calm, it typically it flies by. But when it's chaotic like it is, everything sort of tends to slow down, and a minute seems like it takes 10 minutes to get by. It is incredible. We still continue on that road. Daly continuing back inside the top 10 now, continuing to gain ground. Now the question is, all these other cars in front of him still have a pit stop to give. Where is he going to come out? He was about third or fourth. Has he gained time? Pay attention to that here. Final 10 minutes of the race. Let's see how that works out. Thomas Pierce, leader of the race in the 131 McLaren, the only car to not take any of his pit stops thus far. But quite curiously, Vulcan Bekirden, who had the quickest lap of the race pretty much the entire time, has been ousted by Ulrich, who has made their final pit stop, the second pro car to do that tonight. But the 41 Aston has the quickest lap of the race.
Yeah, it's it's points at the end of the day to get the quickest lap, and Ulrich at the minute does have it. That will give them 2 more points, Jesse. 2 points in this field is everything to the pro drivers. As you know, I was saying before, they're quite spread out in the standings compared to the silver. So Ulrich's just trying to take chances, and I'll have the fastest lap for now. But I do see some green last laps, so they are going faster.
As always, of course, the fastest lap of the race, the Speed Juice Fastest Lap of the Race Award. If you would like to sponsor the fastest lap of every RCI race, get in contact with us for a business inquiry. But until then, it is the Speed Juice Fastest Lap of the Race. Nothing makes you faster than Speed Juice. Not real, not a sponsor. We have fun here. We have fun here all night, Al. Just ignore us. We do prattle on. Go on, Ted. Sorry.
It's got a little bit quiet now. People have done a few of their pit stops. It's sort of just spread right out at the minute. There's still some fights going on. We see Bonza's close to Maltini. We just see right there. Not for a class position, just an overall one. Obviously, Fonza really wants to get past Martini. You don't want to be stuck behind a silver as a pro car. There's obviously, like I just said, there's no points in it, but any racing is some racing. And then we've got Powell and Bilski within 2 seconds of each other. We've got Gaio and Boss. They're close. So there is some people around. Still got pit stops to do, but yeah, just a little waiting game to see, when they finish their pit stops, who's going to come out where and what fights we see for the last, I'd say, about 10, 15 minutes of the race. But yeah, uh, not a bad wet race today, Jesse. It's probably one of the best
No,
I've seen in night
it,
owl.
it's been a pretty good wet race. There's been a lot of passing done inside the top five, and some of that's been driver error, some of that's been just good overtaking as well. Still some good fights to be had. The interesting thing about it is that it's really hard for us from a broadcast perspective here behind the screens to tell you exactly what's going to happen because I don't think the drivers know what's going to happen. There's so many when you have a two pit stop race in a 1 hour time span. There's so many different strategies and there's so little data to tell you what the best case is. You add on top of that some rain, and albeit a pretty stiff rain, if we're being fair about it as well. And you've got cars that are having incidents, cars that are disconnecting, different strategies all over the place. There's not a big enough notebook to tell you what the best thing to do is in any given position. Everybody's all mixed up. We'll know when you know, is what I'm trying to get across to you this evening. Or along for the ride on this one. What I can tell you is Pierce still has both pit stops to give, and I start to worry just a little bit that he's going to come in and double pit inside the final 5 minutes of the race. What'd you see, Ted?
999 has just got confirmed in my ear from a alpha that got DT for track limit, so that's gonna hurt them. Misano possibly can gain another position. Yeah, Fillmore getting that DT, so he's lost his buddy, Pimlott, and he's got a DT, so that's a bit of ouchie, but
Lucas
it's
Bilski
what it is.
might make out like a bandit here tonight. Every single one of his competitors inside the top four in the championship in silver has had some sort of drama. Lucas Bilski has not had any of those issues and is trending in the right direction for a podium and a huge points haul here today. This could be mega for the number 7 Lamborghini driver.
Yeah, well, all he's got is Galinsky, and Galinsky is down in 12th at the minute. What's that? 7th in silver, 6th in silver, 7th in silver. I am right. 7th in silver, but they have done all their mandatory pit stops, so just have to wait and see. And oh, guy just letting through the leader, I think. Someone letting through Ulrich. Oh, Jesse Lee. See what I see?
Oh yeah, I do. I definitely see a stop and go 30 for Francesco Fonsa. The Rondagny Motorsports Porsche has got one massive penalty. I can only assume speeding in the pit lane.
Heavy speed. We've seen speed in the pit lane this season already, I believe, which was a stop and go 10, and it's you know, that's if you're speeding just a bit too much, but stop and go 30 is just, yeah, you've come in a bit, well, quite a lot heavy than you should have done, and yeah, that's worse than a drive-through. That you just sit in there,
without a doubt.
Tires getting cold, you go back out again, you got to get them warmed up. It's yeah, it's not something you want. So Ulrich might be back in this. He's only a lap down. So yeah, there could be a fight at the back for 6th in pro, 5th in pro, sorry.
Well, this race continues to have many twists and turns. We expected there to be penalties today that were ACC assigned, and admittedly, probably didn't expect it to be this much. It's a lot, and it could have been as simple as Francesco sliding through the pit commitment line, or the pit limiter line, rather. Could have been not being on the limiter, exiting the pit lane. It could have been anything. We could theorize all day long, but it doesn't matter. The damage done, a huge speeding penalty and a unforced error requiring an additional stop. They will not only have to come down pit lane, which is effectively a drive-through penalty, they have to stop in their box for 30 seconds, which is way longer than a normal pit stop in a race like this would have been regardless. You're not taking tires. That's the longest stop you can have, is a 30-second stop there. So all of that considered, a huge unforced error, and that will take them right to the back. That might be music to Martin Ulrich's ears, that 41 who has languished at the back. They may have a fight going on there. Jordan Daly's chuffed to bits about that because that's a car that they don't have to pass, and only now the top 3 in his class stand between him, but how close will they be? Will they be this close? The 812 of Gal and Kevin Boss. Oh, yes, that Kevin Boss, the car who slid off the track after being turned into turn 1, is up fighting in the mid pack of his class.
Yeah, he's Boss is doing really well. Oh, who's off there? Aston Martin.
That was one of the Astons. That was
was that
Martin Ulrich.
Ulrich?
Martin
Oh,
Ulrich,
no.
the 15th place driver. Just talking about them gaining. What has happened here? The double hairpin. Oh, he's just out of the groove there.
Oh no, and a 360 showing off. Just like, yeah, I did that on purpose. Yeah, that rest stuff's so slidey. Just trying to get his foot back down and get back on track, and it just flung him round. Yeah, he just went too deep by the looks of it. And he's got DT. He has a drive-through for track limits.
No.
That was a track limit there. This is how hard this track is. Track limits everywhere. Yeah, poor guy. He's not gonna catch up with the 93. I think he's already just coming now. The 6 is off. Ooh.
Galinsky, who has already had issues, is having more issues. Now, what on earth happened to the number 6 Aston of Galinsky? Absolutely looked unabated there and snapped the opposite direction of where the track was going.
That's just got to be some weird snap. God knows what that was, but yeah, it's pretty violent. Yeah, so Galinsky might lose a lot of time from that, but nothing really to worry about. Boss is into his last pit stop as well, as I see. And got 2 more. Well, not really penalties, just warnings. We got lap 16, turn 13, 615 and the 903, warning for 903 unsafe rejoin. And then the same again, lap 16, turn 13, 615 and 903, warning for car 615, avoidable contacts. I think that's the same incident, just 2 different warnings for each of the cars.
Our lovely stewards confirming that, yes, that was a single car incident. No contact made by anybody with Galinsky's number 6. Just out. It looked to me, I was going to say they're out of the groove, but they're not. That is the normal side of the track you would take trying to arc into the corner that was upcoming, but just looped it to the left, which is odd because, I don't know, maybe had a slight left bias in the steering at that particular point, was trying to catch it. Already loose, exiting the previous corner, maybe caught it going the opposite way of the track. I have no idea, but a couple of really strange incidents, one of which again to the 41 of Ulrich, who has got themselves a drive-through and is of course serving that now. As a matter of fact, I believe stopped. They can't tell if they're moving or not, but either way, they're in the pit lane. They're definitely stopped.
They have stopped. Oh, I know what they're doing.
What are they doing?
Well, if you look, the number 8 has the fastest lap by half a second of 1:45.397, whereas Ulrich's one, he had the fastest lap only a few minutes ago, was at 1:45.815. So I'm thinking he's just whacking on fresh wets, and he's going to go for a fastest lap, try and get 2 points.
Yes, the old Seb Vettel technique late into the race. You love to see it. You love to see it. That probably is what he's doing. Keep in mind, Ulrich had the quickest lap earlier in the race. Bekirden was the quickest early on. Barzaghi took it, and then Ulrich took it. Bekirden had it back a few laps ago. Barzaghi has it now. And, well, we can throw that theory to bed, can't we? Ulrich has retired his car from the race based on that frustrating lap that got him a drive-through penalty for extending track limits. 14 cars remain, 16 minutes left to go. No let up of the rain in sight here. Mentioning, I suppose, that in 10 minutes it is going to lessen in intensity, but realistically make very little difference to the drivers on the track. It is still constant driving rain here, very wet conditions throughout. It's been constant, been no change in the track at all in comparison to yesterday, where we started off dry, petered off into the wet evening hours. Today it's been very consistently wet. Stuff like that. Thomas Pierce just going a bit wide there, Ted. A few more millimeters out of the line, that could be potentially damaging.
Yeah, that did look a bit wide. I think it was just in the white line. Hopefully for him, for his sake. But just looking at Daly, Buddy Stone in chat says Daly slowly climbing up the board, and yeah, he is. He's the top pro that's completed all their pit stops. Still, top three haven't. So I want to see when they've done theirs where Daly will come out. 'Cause I think Daly was in fourth when he dropped into his first one, or his fifth. It was behind one of the Ferraris. I don't know if it was Barzaghi, but he was stuck behind someone. Oh, it could have been Maltini. I would believe the red and green Ferrari. It just dropped in to get out of the spray we saw right at the beginning, because he was the first one to complete both of his. I just want to see where Daly does end up compared to the rest of the field.
Well, he's 21.878 seconds behind Bilski, which again, a car he's not technically racing in the first place. And now Bilski will come down to pit road and complete his final stop, P2 in the silver class. He is at the moment. He'll release Daly, who will get by, and that will be music to Daly's ears. A car he doesn't have to fight to get back up there. Thomas Pierce, who we're watching here, the 131, has had a very quiet but very profitable day on the racetrack. He's done nothing but go in the right direction. Well, considering how frustrating that first lap may have been, it's definitely gone his way in the subsequent 45 minutes. That car looks absolutely planted to the racetrack, but we're not done with the drive-through penalties today, Ted.
Yeah, I just looked back in the 615's got one. Got a drive-through for track limits. Yeah, Pierce is getting on the edge as well with his limits of the track. I'm waiting for him to get a drive-through and Daly be able to get that third place pretty easily. But yeah, that's another silver that's going to be dropping down the order again. So Bilski might be on for.
He's just profiting. He's not making mistakes, and he's winning because of it.
That's what you got to do. It's Misano. You've drove Misano before, you'll know the track limits are horrible. Like even in the wet they're horrible, and in the dry they are the same. They don't change. Like some tracks, their track limits change a wee bit when it rains. Give leeway for the drivers, but yeah, you just got to play it safe and just got to chill. While still getting your lap times in, keeping the pace going, but you don't want to over push it if you're not racing. And yeah, that's what a lot of the drivers have been doing. Obviously, 615, not so much, pushed it a bit too much, is unfortunate. But see, the 90 has now completed their last mandatory pit stop. Daly will overtake them while they're in the pit lane. 740 is coming down the main straight as well, but looks like Maltini will be still in the lead of silver. If
I've just been informed Maltini has just had a really big issue. They've looped that 90 before they made it to pit lane.
Oh, really?
I didn't see it, but I reported by our eagle-eyed stewarding team, Alpha, has said that Maltini did a spin, a big spin.
A big spin. Ooh.
Yeah, and they capitalized big, so you know it's big.
The 812 messed up the pit entry. Apparently, that's from Alpha as well. And they have a drive-through. So, I guess that's track limits. It's all going crazy.
Yeah, that very well could have been track limits. The 812 now of Gout with a drive-through penalty. They'll have to come down a third time down pit lane. This is agony, folks.
Let's see if they get a stop and go from. No, they didn't. Okay, there wasn't no speed, and I don't know how they messed the pit entry up.
That was them serving a drive-through penalty.
Okay. Yeah, they were serving it. Apparently they. Oh, okay. Alpha got it wrong. She thought it was messed up the pit lanes. So they got a drive-through, but it was track limit. So that's.
Listen, it's a crazy race. Okay, we're all trying to. There's like 50 million things happening at any given time. And speaking of which, exactly what I'm talking about, a car going incredibly wide off the track to let others through. That wasn't poor position, of course, but you couldn't see that car for the longest time, shrouded in the mist, kicked up by the Kaneko 740 Lamborghini out in front. Maltini, who has now effectively, but not really, lost the lead in that class. Kaneko still has a pit stop to give here, but has lost position and might be slowed down here. The Racing Team Ferrari behind somebody in a battle that they otherwise wouldn't have been before the
Oh,
spin has happened. Dario, a little bit of
close.
touch there perhaps as well. Dario Barzaghi pits from the lead of the race. Vulcan Bakirden will follow him as well. Monkey See, Monkey Do up front. Two Italian manufacturers will not be outfenced by each other. They're going to pit together and maybe have, or at least attempt to have, heads-up battle here at the end. Thomas Pierce, I'm pretty sure, did go through to re-inherit the lead. They still have a pit stop left. That was a very slick stop by the Italian driver from Team Vallis Esports. Gets
Oh,
away
that's fast.
fantastically. Those were two really good pit stops, admittedly, by Bakirden as well. They will leave pretty much as they came in.
Yeah. Barzaghi was a second faster, 55.4 to the 56.1.
It just looked fast.
Oh, it was a 57. I lie. It was a 50. That was the one before. But no, Vulcan got a 55.6. That's pretty fast. But Jordan Daly, his second was a 55.2. So there's some pretty quick pit stops going on here today. Have to see what happens. Vulcan wants to be careful with that.
Well, it all depends. It all depends on how far out in front Thomas Pierce is. It's going to be Pierce versus Daly. For third place, look at this big lunge here. He's going to miss the corner. It's Fonsa.
Jeez, I thought that was going to be a crash with one of those cars there. That was
good heads-up driving by everybody there. Fonsa able to mobile chicane themselves out of danger there. Everybody else, including this man, Kevin Boss, the Wheelie Slow Racing Team, making out of that incident. Yeah, absolutely. You can tell he's serious about his sim racing.
Oh, Martin Ulrich joins us in the chat. That was a race. Okay, yeah. Unfortunately,
I can agree. I can commiserate with you, Martin. It was a frustrating race for you, Neil Pimlott, and several others, of course. Sometimes, I hate to say it, no pun intended, when it rains, it pours.
yeah, it's true. It's just one of those things. You're never ever gonna have like every race is gonna be amazing. You're always gonna have that one race that really gets you, and you just have to step away from it and come back next week. Just one of these things, but yeah, it's wet as well. Don't forget about that. But we've still got 3 drivers that need to complete their pit stops within the 3 minutes and 36 minute mark, as you can see where it says pit window at the top in white. It's counting down. They've not got long, as we see Gaio is in their Mercedes, the 812 for the last one. Just got to look out for the 740, and obviously Piers the 131 to complete theirs. That'll be everyone finished.
Sure will. Get very close to the end of the race. 6 minutes, 40 seconds left to go. Just gone after 5 p.m. in sim time here. Misano in Italy. Track famous for its MotoGP racing, and until this year I didn't understand that myself as far as the video games are concerned. Ended up absolutely loving this place on a motorbike. It absolutely flows around here on 2 wheels. Of course, in ACC, it's a track that divides the populace. Some people are really good here. They love this place. A lot of people commiserate over the track limits. We've seen our fair share of that today. We've seen it still with a drive-through penalty in the 903, just for instance. But it is a action track, certainly. I think we could all agree. Here is the state of it. Thomas Pierce has a pit stop to give. Barzaghi, who took the lead from Bakirden earlier, who was on pole, has not given it back up. It was about 1.7 seconds after the incident that let Barzaghi through. Bakirden's kept it tight. It has ballooned out to more than 7 seconds. It's just about that now. It was less, but has grown back out to 7 seconds. A quick pit stop by Bakirden put pressure back on Dario, but now fading again. Barzaghi with the quickest lap of the race. This man still has a pit stop left, and he's going to have to do it. I'm assuming this lap. He doesn't have a choice.
Yes. Really. Yeah. This lap. It will be this lap. Yeah, Pacino got to drive through for track limits, unfortunately, but Looks like they got a little bit of damage from earlier on. I don't know if they've repaired that. Too sure. So that's probably why they've got the drive-through. Probably why they've got the track limits is just going wide, not got that grip pushing the car. From what they used to before the damage, and they're just not adjusted to what it is now. But yeah, Pierce needs to come in. 740 is in for the last of Silver's pit stops. Then Pierce should be in just after this corner.
Couple of cars still yet to do their stop, and Nico, one of those. They will have to come in as well, but not before Thomas Pierce hits the line with authority. That was about as aggressive as you could imagine in this weather condition.
Close.
It was very close, but I think he got down to it. I'm probably going to be proven wrong here. We see a red number, but pretty sure that he got down exactly in time. Nico has to get in the pit lane before that pit window clock strikes 0. I'm pretty sure they will just about accomplish that. They are, in fact, in the lane, only a lap down. So that is the torrid pace today. The question will be, where does Pierce come through? Barzaghi's gone through. Bekirden about to go through. Wait for the 3 to turn to a 2 in the bottom right corner of your screen. There it is. Bekirden through. And now, what of Jordan Daly in P4? They did a double early pit stop, racing for the team called Just Gamers. Did the gamer move, doubled up his pit stops like he's a Red Bull crew, and we'll see if it has paid off, and I think it's going to be somewhat close. Here comes Daly off the final turn, onto the front straight. The 140, excuse me, the 131's already out of pit lane. I was looking at the 140. It threw me for a loop.
Pimlot's back.
Yeah, that absolutely threw me. I was looking for the 131. I saw the 140, said that's close enough. But no, of course, the 131 out of pit lane well and truly before, about 3 or 4 turns in front. So Daly looking like they'll settle for 4th place today. Thomas Pierce, though, has run an immaculate race after the early lap 1 dramas and looks good value for 3rd here.
I think Daly's pit stops have screwed him a little with the fuel. I think he's just carried a bit too much fuel than everyone else, and there's probably, I think he's chewed his tires off a bit more than the others. Obviously, having a heavier car. His last lap was a 46.3 compared to the Vulcans of 45.4. So every 10th counts, and I think Daly's just dropping off a bit. Dario's just another fastest lap, a 44.722, so very nice from him. But I just want to see what Pierce's times are compared to Daly's. I didn't look beforehand, silly of me, didn't use my eyes, but yeah, Daly's got a 30-second gap and 1 minute 55. That's 1 lap. He's not gonna make it, but I think there's still 1 more lap for the leaders. Still 1 more lap. They're only into turn 4, so still got a bit of the race to go. But 30 seconds is a massive gap.
Well, looks like it's pretty much settled for the podium spots. Barzaghi just needs to avoid the drive-through penalty. Bekirden and Pierce, the same story for all of them. Looking at the silver class, Molteni did have a spin. It hasn't mattered. They have had such good pace. They have gapped Bilski by more than 20 seconds to this point. Galinski, remember all the issues the number 6 Aston has had today? It hasn't mattered. They're still thundering towards a podium position. That is going to change the championship fight in a big way. Neil Pimlott probably, in all likelihood, will not get any championship points today. Did not finish the minimum amount of the race. Easy for me to say, and that will be to Bilski's benefit. But the recovery by Pavel Galinski has been absolutely incredible. I would have not picked them for a podium position today.
Yeah, they've done very well to get into the 3rd place at the minute. Molteni obviously staying in 1st with the spin they had. That unfortunately we didn't see, but as Alpha said, it's a big spin, so nice one for them. Yeah, Bilski's in 2nd place. Bilski just been plain sailing, taking it smooth, nice and easy. So what we do. I do see Pimlott is now rejoining us in front of the leaders, going out of pit lane. Oh,
Mm,
join
I,
behind them.
I,
There he is.
okay, I was gonna say I'm not sure what the stewards will think about that, but Neil is doing the
Ooh.
respectful thing, getting out of the way. I thought for a second that maybe he might be trying something out there, but no. Neil's he just wants to. I know what it is. Just thought of it. Neil Pimlott, regardless, it's been a frustrating day. He doesn't care about points at this point. He knows what his job is next week. Just wants to see the checkered flag.
I'm not. I don't know what the penalty is for not completing your mandatory pit stop. I don't know if it's a DQ or it's just
I think it's
time.
130 seconds,
Is
isn't
it
it?
130 is not having a driver drive the race, any part of the race.
Well,
It could be 130 or it's
here's the thing,
120.
Ted.
It's one of them. We'll find out.
You might be right here, and you know what? We're about to find out.
We're about to find out. Night Owl is
Neil,
testing.
it's night owl, baby. Neil Pimlott just wants to see the checkered flag. It's been a frustrating
Yeah, I
day.
don't blame
I
him.
can't explain the psychology any better than that. All you want to do doesn't care about points, doesn't care about position. None of that matters anymore. He's had a rough night. He knows he's not going to get points. He knows he's going to lose the championship. But for him, it's a point of pride. See the checkered flag. That's exactly what he was trying to do. And see the checkered flag is exactly what the Team Ballas esports car is going to do. It's an Italian racetrack. It's an Italian win. Dario Barzaghi wins here at Misano. What a brilliant race.
Yeah, and um, Vulcan coming in second place. Not that far back, to be fair. 7.7 seconds is not too bad. And the Pimnot has got the 130-second penalty. You was right. And there's... I guess he's always right as well.
I'm going to be on. No, I'm not. First of all, that's very flattering, but I just
That's fair. And then Pierce in third. Daly coming through the last two corners now to take fourth in the pro class. Fonza is fifth in pro, 10th overall. Still got Maltini coming across the line.
That's right. Maltini will come across the line. You see Jordan Daly here will be fourth place. You might ask what might have been, but a nice salvage. The pit cycle did not favor him. Tried something contrarian. It didn't work. He'll put that in the memory bank for next time. But for Michele Maltini, the number 90, it's a double Italian win with the Italian flag on the Italian manufacturer. Ferrari wins both categories. Two Italians winning. It's almost like it was planned like that, but I promise you it was not. Brilliant day for the Italians here. A very rainy Italian track. And what about Lucas Bilski? What will this do for their championship hopes? It does nothing but help them. They will certainly be back head first into the conversation with a strong finish today. Zealous Motorsports will be proud.
Yeah, well done. Bilski staying out of all the trouble there is, and Galinsky, well done to them, coming in third place. I just see that Ferrari Lambo, and a British car in third for both classes.
As broadcasters, we always try to make things up. We we look for the little things. There is something to be said for that. Ferrari didn't start the day on the best foot. That was owed to Lamborghini, but they won it in the long run, and it's an Italian affair. And what else can I say? It was a fantastic race. Italians in the driver's seat, Italian badges on the car, some nice tricolor flair. You love to see it. Deserving winners today in tough conditions.
Yeah, well done to all drivers, even the ones that got the drive-throughs and the stop and goes. It's very difficult, but they came back, and Pimlott for joining back and completing the race. He's got the penalty time. He's not going to get any points because he didn't complete 85% of the leader's laps, but came back. He started the race. He finished the race. Well done to him. And just read from Daly that he messed up. He read the pit requirements wrong. So that's why he dropped back a bit. Bless him, but still finished the race. Got fourth place. A lot of points right there.
Well, I tell you what, it certainly changed the complexion of the Silver Championship today, but it also did something else. It changed the complexion of the Pro Championship as well. Vulcan Bekirden, who was sort of on easy street coming in here, lost this race today and now finds Dario Barzaghi as a legitimate challenger, but he's going to have to keep it up, is Bekirden, throughout the final two races. We're all done with the season breaks for endurance racing on Saturday. We'll be with you throughout the end of the series next week. live from Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas, before we take the final stop in France at Circuit Paul Ricard for the championship finale. Silver is every which way but settled. Everything's up for grabs there. Will Neil Pimlott respond to today's horrible race? Let's be completely frank, and not of his own doing. Tough race for everybody, not only battling each other, but the conditions, the physical race as well, surely. A big thank you to our partners that make this race and every race possible, AK Informatica, for providing our server solutions. Driver 61, you can get 25% off your driver coaching by going to driver61.com and using our discount code in the description of this video. Driver coaching can make you a better sim racing driver. Heck, it's worked for us here at RCI staff. And of course, fanatec.com. Use our affiliate link when making purchases of awesome sim racing hardware. Fanatec.com doesn't cost you a single thing, and it tells them that we sent you. It helps us with things like server cost when you use it. Please and thank you for doing all that. And of course, we're less than about 10 or so subscribers away from 4,200 subs here on YouTube. We'd like very much if you left a subscribe and a like before you left. We definitely appreciate that as well. Ted Edwards, a lot to digest today. What are your takeaways?
An amazing race from all drivers, especially in how wet it was today. Didn't expect it to be this wet. I asked for rain, did my rain dance. Jesse caught me walking past my door, but yeah, it was a really good race from all drivers. A few incidents, a load of drive-throughs, but all in all, a very good race.
Of course, we'll be back with you on Thursday for the continuation of the GT4 Porsche Cup Multi-Series or Multi-Class Championship, a Friday championship as well, continuing into next week. We'll be back with you for Night Owl at Circuit of the Americas as well next Saturday evening. Thank you all for watching. A big thank you to everybody here at RCI, all the staff, the admins, the stewarding team, of course, and broadcast. Help bring this race to you. We'll see you next week. Have a good night.